The question is, what gives Bitcoin its value? Why is one Bitcoin $50,000 right now? Why do people even care? Because it's just some people will say, well, it's just a digit, right? Well, not necessarily. There's a digit that represents it. But if you go back to Mike Maloney's videos that you were watching, the definition of money is essentially a vehicle that represents our time, energy, labor, and freedom, right? So we as human beings, the most scarcest thing on earth is our time and our energy. What Bitcoin does through its structure and mechanisms is it utilizes energy, the electrical grid. It requires large amounts of power to power these computers in order to solve mathematical equations in order to create it into existence. So even though it's not physical, it has a mining process that's very similar to gold and silver. If you're going to have a totally new economic system, and especially with the principles that Bitcoin has in its limited nature based off the code, right, is Bitcoin is becoming digital gold. And so there's an evolution that takes place when something is becoming money, and that is first it's a collectible. Then it turns into a store of value, which is the stage that we're entering into. Then it becomes a medium of exchange. Then it becomes a true measure of wealth. And so we're in this evolution process with Bitcoin. And what Bitcoin is doing is it's a black hole sucking up the world's liquidity right now. And what it's going to do is it's going to become a life raft, a life preserver for purchasing power due to its limited nature and security on the network. And the best way to look at it is it's, just like gold, like what gives gold its value? Why did we use gold? Gold we used as a store of value, which can essentially be a store of energy. So gold is a store of energy, and it takes energy to pull gold out of the ground. And that's why the utility and use case of gold gives it value, but also human perception gives it value. Without us perceiving that it has value, it really has no value. And so there's a couple components that give gold its value. And so what Bitcoin is doing is if gold is a vehicle that stores and measures energy over a long period of time, Bitcoin is doing the exact same thing, but instead of using energy to pull gold out of the ground, we're using energy for computers to solve mathematical equations to create this stuff into existence. So it's like a imitation of gold, but it's just for a digital world. Going back to that layer one solution, just like traditionally gold was our layer one money, our layer one store of value, then we built layers on top of gold. So what were our layers for gold? We had paper dollars, which were tradable, redeemable for gold. Then we had checks. Then we had credit cards. Then we had fintech like PayPal or Cash App, something like that. But with all of those systems, gold was still the base layer of store of value. And so Bitcoin is becoming that store of value level one base layer for the digital economy. Because in a digital world, nothing is physically tangible. And I'm a big proponent of gold and silver, and always have been and always will be. And I will use gold and silver as a store of value because, let's be honest, gold and silver is God's money. It was here before we were here, right? So with cryptocurrencies, what Bitcoin is trying to do is trying to emulate the properties of gold and silver, but in a digital world. And as much as I love gold and silver, it's very hard for me to call my friend in Australia and say, hey, I'm going to send you 5 bars of silver and let's settle this transaction without A, a lot of money to send it overseas, B, government stopping me and taxing me. But what Bitcoin does is it takes the attributes of that, but makes it easy and permissionless in order to send value on a network that can't stop you from doing it. But it's a mechanism that stores energy and uses energy because it's pulling from the electrical grid or natural gas or something that's truly limited in nature in order to represent that energy.